Testing, testing. Testing. Hey, on.
Hi, Ron. I just clicked on the link and it says invalid meeting ID. Please check and try again.
All right, hold on.
So I tried three times.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, try that one. It looks like it's might be a little bit different.
Just waiting for it to come in. There it is. All righty.
All right, I'll see you in there.
Going off the phone. Thanks.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Got it.
All right, you there?
I be here.
Oh, shoot.
What?
I forgot to post this on Telegram.
Hmm.
Which would be a reason why there's only 2 people watching.
How you doing today?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm okay. Just I've been busy today. I'm not feeling very I'm not feeling very good today, but I'll be
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault.
God, I hope not.
Oh yeah.
I just came on the line.
Let me type this out because I'm not really good at
I'll be quiet.
multitasking.
I'll be quiet.
Okay, there we go. Oh, that's a horrible looking picture of me, but hey, whatever. Uh, okay. So we got about 10 minutes to let people kind of meander.
Wander in. Okay. Excellent.
I'm gonna enjoy my 0 calorie Jello, sugar-free Jello. But so, how are you? How's San Diego?
Oh, we suffer here.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do.
It's I know it's
painful when it's 70 and sunny every day.
Well, today it's about that. It's sunny, not much wind. Nobody's dog is barking, so it's a good day.
That's a good thing.
There is a dog in the house across the street and across the park from us. I normally don't hear the dog unless I'm outside, but I feel for the neighbors because this dog is not happy.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, take your animal in the house. Give him a rub. Now, last time we finished off, I do believe, with module 7.
Correct.
So am I going to go through an overview of 1 through 7?
Nope. No need.
Okay, so we're just going straight into 8.
Yeah, there's no need. If people ask questions, then they ask questions. Hello, Gloria.
Is that the Gloria from Laura Branigan's song?
No. No. You're dating yourself, Alan.
Oh, no kidding. Again. Hey,
that was when you in your late 20s.
Hey, I remember seeing people and they were referred to because they were driving two-seater sports cars, ragtop, top down.
Yeah.
And they were called beatniks.
Okay.
That's going back a day.
That's going back a day. That's going back a day. I'm in SoCal too. Now I know. I don't have the same weather that you do, but it has been, I have seen no evidence of fall other than the leaves falling off the trees. It's been very, very mild.
Yeah, the next few days in San Diego is supposed to be in the over 70 as the high.
Yeah.
But the thing about San Diego County truly has microclimates. You got coastal, then you've got what amounts to inland, like 10 miles in.
Yep.
It in the winter it gets much colder, in the summer it gets much hotter. You go to the local hills or the mountains, and then you keep going, you get to the desert. So depending on where you are in the county, it could be completely different.
Well, San Diego County is unique in the sense that of all the counties in California, San Diego is the only one that has all of those aspects. Because, well, actually, maybe LA might, because LA has LA County also has desert, but it's high desert, not low desert.
Right.
So LA County would probably be right there with you guys, but we don't talk about LA County.
Only if you have to go there.
That place is a freaking cesspool.
It's not where I want to live.
Definitely not.
Yeah. Well,
what's
too bad
today?
Today is Tuesday, the 23rd.
Yeah, today is Tuesday.
Yeah, all day.
Yeah, Gloria, today is Tuesday. Did you lose track? No, it's Tuesdays. Always been Tuesdays. Always been Tuesdays. going back since we started. God, I think I came and took over for Scott when he went on the road, and I just kind of continued on with it because he's still on the road. So, and then next week, I think I told you guys that this is week 2. We're going to do 3 of these. So next week will be the 3rd week.
Right.
And I think that'll still be November. Would that be the last day of November? 30th? I don't remember.
It is the 30th, the last day of November.
So the last day of November, we'll finish up this class, and then the following Tuesday, we'll go right back into the first class of the Constitution and go through the Constitution again.
Beautiful. Well, I'm sorry you missed the live classes in Beaumont.
Oh,
I was well received. No one threw anything at me.
That's the one thing I will say about the Beaumont crowd. The Beaumont crowd actually, Beaumont has some they have some good people. I believe that they do have some really good people.
I liked them all, and the number of questions I would get either during or after a module, I was surprised. I was happy about it, but it was nice to have the.
Were they good? Were they at least were they at least good questions?
They're very good. Well, to me, the only dumb question
is the question not asked.
Thank you, because it's dumb. It's silent. Just like dumbbells.
Most people are afraid to ask questions because they don't want to appear dumb. So they deliberately. This is all psychology. Most people will not ask a question because they don't want to appear as though they look stupid in front of the audience. Because believe it or not, raising your hand and asking a question in class it's not the same as being in front of the class giving the class, but it is just as it can be equally terrifying.
Well, to me, it's very important because.
Well, let me finish.
Oh, sorry.
Let me finish. But the thing is that if one person has that question, the likelihood is multiple people have the same question. So I'm never afraid to participate in classes. Yeah. Ever. In fact, I'll even ask a question, even if I know the answer. I'll ask the question because I know somebody's probably wanting to know, and I'll ask it just because I know. So, Doug, I've done that a couple of times with Doug.
Yeah.
So, Tracy, did you save some tequila for me?
Oh God. Yeah, we know why you're not feeling well. Where can people find this broadcast?
Here, I will send you the link.
Yeah, send me the link. That way I can get it out to people I know. Thank you. And I've got a 4-legged visitor on my desk. So.
Oh, yeah.
She's back. She's back.
I'm having I had a really, really rough weekend. I rescued a couple. I love cats. Anybody who really knows me knows that I love cats. And I rescued 7 kittens from out in the back.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly. And there was one of them that I just had a tremendous affection for. And Alan, I'm emailing you the link right now. And I called him Wyatt. And I loved him. He was like a dog, he'd come when you called him, and
wow.
And he was just bouncing around, just more spry than most kittens are spry anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I put him in the garage overnight, and so they're safe from the outside elements. Put him in on Friday night, went in on Saturday morning to kind of check on him and everything, and he wasn't very bright. He wasn't very bright-eyed. He was a little lethargic. So I ended up taking him to the vet. And he was gone by noon.
Oh my gosh.
How sad. He went downhill so fast, less than 12 hours, just gone.
Did he eat something?
No, I think the doc said he seemed to have he thought it was some sort of like a feline parvo or something. It just ate him alive in short order.
Very
And I
sad.
just is I was sad. But anyway, enough about that.
Okay.
So anyway, so we are back on week 2 with Alan Myers. We're going through the Federal Reserve. You guys can find his work at feded.us. Last week we went through module 1 through 7 of the 18. So today we're going to start off with number 8. If you will have to pay for that. It's $7 for all 18 modules, but you can get that at Alan's website. So without further ado, Alan, I will let you have the floor, my friend.
Thank you. Just an update. Currently, for some reason, FedEd, which is feded.us, something happened on the website. So I'm trying to have somebody fix it, because when I try to get on my website, it says something about it not secure link. So keep trying. They are working on it, but unfortunately, I don't think it's operational today. But I will go slowly, and we'll take questions at the end of each.
Actually, I have one from Conservative Cowboy, and this is actually a good question. He's asking, was the Federal Reserve now merged into the U.S. Treasury?
No. But we're going to get to why the Fed is private in Module 9. So hold that thought.
Okay. Well, have you not heard the? I'm going to find something.
Okay.
I'm going to find something, and no, go ahead and start.
Yeah.
I'll find this while you're doing it.
Okay. Module 8. What are reserves? And how do Federal Reserve notes and coin become M1 money? Hopefully everybody remembers what M1 money is. That is money that is spendable on demand now. Each module opens with a quote. This one comes from Thomas Jefferson in 1816 in a letter to John Taylor. And I sincerely believe with you that banking establishments are more dangerous than standing armies, and that the principle of spending money to be paid by posterity, the future, under the name of funding is but swindling futurity on a large scale. Thomas Jefferson. I like this quote because it really talks about the power of banking. And he's got other quotes about, Thomas Jefferson has other quotes about basically paying as you go and not getting in debt. Module 8, what are bank reserves? We've talked about this briefly. Bank reserves are the currency, the medium of exchange, items of barter that banks and the federal government uses, just like we use money. Reserves and money are not the same thing. They're different. They're not considered in the same supply. The Federal Reserve note, I'm sorry I don't have one, but I might have one. Hold on. Somewhere.
I have a $5 Federal Reserve note.
No. I got one. There you go. I got Federal Reserve note. There we go. There's a 4-step process by which this bill becomes part of the M1 money supply. Many times I've heard, way too many times, I hear about how money is being printed. Money is printed into existence. Somebody's printing too much money. Yes, this is printed. It's printed by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Back in the day, the Bureau charged the Fed charged it 6.4 cents a note, regardless of denomination. Now, the charge is different for each denomination. Round numbers somewhere between 5 and 13 cents. I'll just use 10 cents for the day. The first step is printing. The Bureau prints it, and sitting on the loading docks of the Bureau Could be millions and millions of street value dollars. But to the Bureau, it's just a print job. Just like if you went down to your local print shop and were picking up flyers, it's just a print job, 10 cents a note. The Fed picks it up in its armored trucks, takes it back to the bank, unloads it. And the way it's done is the armored truck drives up, the big steel doors go up, the truck goes in, the engine off, the doors go down, everything, including the truck, go down into the basement. That's where they unload it. In the vault of the Fed could be billions and billions of street value dollars. And this is an incredibly secure location with physical security. Men with serious firearms, electronics, video. This is a very, very secure place. Yet to the Fed, all those billions and billions of street value dollars are nothing more than a printing expense. It gets the same bookkeeping treatment as office supplies, repair and maintenance, postage. That's all it is. That's why when the bills come back to the Fed and they can't be used anymore, they shred them, turn them into mulch, burn them. Because it's 10 cents a note. Next step, it goes to a bank. I'm the Fed, and the Bank of Ron calls me up and says he wants his regular order of cash. Okay, I send it to him. What I do on my books, the Fed, is I decrease with a debit entry his electronic reserve account. And I credit something called Federal Reserve Notes Outstanding. And it's misinterpreted to think that this is actually a liability on my books. Anyway, the Bank of Ron, he gets the cash. He debits the asset, cash on hand, that goes up. He credits reserves at the Fed, that reduces it. So on Bank of Ron's books, numbers just move from one asset to another. The bottom line is, for the Bank of Ron, all the cash and coin held by him in his vault and teller drawers is nothing but his reserves in physical form. It's not money. I go to the Bank of Ron, I go to the ATM, I pull out $100 out of the ATM. At the moment I get those 520s, I now have $100 of physical M1 money. I call that M1 cash or M1 CA. My checking account, M1 ED, electronic digits, just decreased. My total money supply hasn't changed. It's just changed form. The upshot, and the coins, the coin kind of works the same way, but coins come from the mint, of course. Bottom line, money in our system is never, ever printed into existence, and it doesn't come out of thin air. Your thoughts, Ron?
You know, I'm gonna have to play dumb on that one, because as you were going through that module, I was trying to find that article. So I did find it, but I found it at about when you were about 80% completed. So I'm really not in a position to ask many questions.
Okay.
But I did find the article. It's a little bit lengthy of a read. I'm going to send it to you, and then we can go over that maybe
at another time.
Next week will be fine, because
Fine.
the title here, I'll just read the title. The Fed's cure risk. The Fed's cure risks being worse than the disease. And this is an opinion piece by Jim Bianco from March of 2020.
Okay.
And the opening paragraph, the economic debate of the day centers on whether the cure of an economic shutdown is worse than the disease of the virus. Similarly, we need to ask if the cure of the Federal Reserve getting so deeply into corporate bonds, asset-backed securities, commercial paper, and exchange trade funds is worse than the disease seizing financial markets. It may be. Okay, you know, I'm going to send this to you, and then we can discuss it. But in here, it talks about how the scheme essentially merges the Fed and Treasury into one organization. So meet your new Fed chairman, Donald J. Trump. That's a sentence in this article.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to agree with that. But good timing. We go to Module 9. Module 9 is the Fed remember when I say Fed, I'm talking about the Federal Reserve System, Federal Reserve banks, not the government. Is the Fed public or private? The opening quote: the regional Federal Reserve banks are not government agencies, but are independent, privately owned, and locally controlled corporations. This comes from a Ninth Circuit case in 1982, Lewis versus the United States. Now, some people have said, which drives me nuts, the Fed is quasi-public or quasi-private, however you want it. It's like, you can't be quasi. It's like saying a woman is quasi-pregnant. No,
Yeah, exactly.
it ain't happening. So from my study of the Fed and related topics, I'm going to talk about, I think it's several conditions that tell me the Fed is absolutely, totally, utterly private. To give you an idea, just to set the scene, the Fed includes 12 banks, 12 regional, independent, run-for-profit banks. The biggest one is the one in New York. The one that covers our region is San Francisco. The 12 banks have 23 branches. The New York has no branch. San Francisco's branch is in LA. And there's also something called the Board of Governors. As I said, each bank is independent, privately owned, run-for-profit corporation. Why do I say that? Each bank has its own president, vice president, board of directors, and employees. And these employees are not part of the US government. If you go to the 1913 law, section 7, page 8, under dividends, you'll see the word stockholder, which means that each bank is owned by its stockholders. And to be a stockholder, you have to be a member bank within the region of that Federal Reserve Bank. These shares, these stockholder shares, are not publicly traded. And they're only owned by member banks, not by individuals, not by any kind of government. In the beginning, each stockholder was to receive up to, and still exists, a 6% dividend per year or per annum based on their capital. The Fed refuses to honor all Freedom of Information Act or FOIA requests. You can only do that if you're private. And apparently, to try to get to audit, as Dr. Paul and Dr. Paul want to, requires congressional authorization. Well, you don't need congressional authorization to audit the Department of Defense. This tells me they're private. All Fed banks are subject to state property tax laws. This tells me they're private. Now we get to the good stuff. And this is from the notes to their financial statements. Substantially all employees of the Fed and the Board of Governors are covered by a private multi-employer retirement plan. This plan is so private, and it's a multi-employer plan. You have the 12 banks, you have the Board of Governors, and you have one other employer, the plan administrator itself. That is how closed and tight this retirement system is. The plan administrator's part of it. We've already talked about that. There's a circuit court case that describes the Fed as private. But here's the kicker. And this is in that same section of the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, which is section 7, page 8. There in this section, they describe how a bank, each individual bank will calculate its net income. It will say that 6% of that net will go to the, or 6% based on their capital will go as a dividend. There's an extra amount that goes out as a surplus, and the lion's share of this. And this is not a calculated amount. This is a net amount. the lion's share of this alleged net income goes to the US Treasury as a franchise tax. That's what it says in the law. Well, who pays the franchise tax? Private corporations to government entities. The Fed is absolutely, totally, utterly private. There's nothing public about it. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York, actually, the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 was signed into law by Woodrow Mahy Rott Wilson, December 23rd, 1913. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the first one, was incorporated in May of 1914. It had its first board meeting in August of 1914, and it went operational in November of 1914. The Fed is private.
I didn't know that.
That's why I wrote it down.
No, I'm just saying I didn't know. I didn't.
The real kicker is the franchise tax, to me. That the net goes to the Treasury as a franchise tax. The other thing is, when I've looked at financial statements, balance sheets, income statements for the banks, back in the day, some years ago, they used to describe the net going to the Treasury as interest on Federal Reserve notes. Now, the auditors are one of the top 4 firms in the country, and they're calling this interest on Federal Reserve notes. And apparently this is because this is what the Board of Governors wants it called. But this absolutely makes no sense at all. Number one, who owns the Federal Reserve notes? The Fed. Why would the Fed pay interest on something it owns and was charged for and satisfied? It wouldn't. 2, since when is interest on anything a residual amount? It's not, it's a calculated amount. So this is straight up misinformation. Now they just call it transfers to the Treasury. They're still hiding, which is more accurate, but they're still hiding the fact this is a franchise tax, and only private corporations pay franchise tax to government entities. That's module 9.
So where does the IRS come into play then? In terms of, are you going to be talking about the IRS in terms of the Federal Reserve?
No.
At all?
No.
Okay, so
well,
because the IRS is the collection agency for the Federal Reserve on the interest for the debt, correct? Like when the income taxes go to pay the interest on the debt that the government borrows from the Federal Reserve.
Okay, that's a much more complicated question.
Okay.
Save that for the end, because
Okay.
I want to get through those, but do save that.
I'll remember that I'll remember that easily.
But you just scribble it down. Okay, module 10. The problems with a cashless monetary system. My opening quote on this is, and this is mine, a plan A without a plan B is not much of a plan at all. Or to use SEAL team lingo, 2 is 1, 1 is none.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, oh, that's a typo. Anyway, this idea of going cashless, and there's countries like Sweden, for example, they are pushing crazy. I've seen pictures. I don't do the translation, but apparently it says, no cash. I can go to stores in Southern California. They won't take cash. And people are getting used to using credit cards and debit cards, tap this, swipe that. And it's all very convenient. Here's some of the problems I see. You remember what happened in Greece and Cyprus? They shut their systems down.
Mm-hmm.
And they were shut down for days. And when they finally reopened, the banks told the depositors how much they could take out each day. So you might, if it happened here, they'd be like waiting in line for 2-3 hours to get $100 out. However, think about that. You could go in and actually get physical money. What do you get if there's no physical money? Some debit card, some credit card? What are you going to get? But this is the problem I have with that, is that if all money is electronic digits, which I call M1ED, then all your monetary wealth, not your physical wealth, car, house, whatever, all your monetary wealth is in a computer somewhere, owned by a bank, controlled by a bank. You have limited to no access to, you have no direct control. Your access can be limited or eliminated in a heartbeat because it's all electronic. You can't save anything for, God forbid, a rainy day out of the system because it's all electronic. And if they were able to push this like they did when they took the gold with FDR 33, you'd be given a handful of days. I think that executive order, which is absolutely ridiculous that it was done on an executive order, gave people less than a month to turn in all their gold. And then if you didn't turn in, if it was played out like that with physical money, cash and coin, if you didn't turn it in within a certain time period, what's going to happen? Oh, it's not going to be good anymore. You ran out of time. And they might make it, the officials might make it illegal to transact. Excuse me. They might make it illegal to transact in physical money because it's no good anymore. It's illegal. I don't like somebody telling me that they are going to control every penny I have. All payments I make will have to be electronic. All receipts have to be electronic. It's going through computer systems that I do not own and control. And what happens when you piss somebody off? You're out of there. Now, Ron, are you familiar with the term bail-in?
I am. I was just going to ask you if that was what, if that was the bail-in.
Well,
you're
for
talking
those
about,
who don't, I think this was back in 2012 or 2014. G20 got together in Australia and they decided to authorize a bail-in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a bail-in is when, let's say the Bank of Ron is having a little trouble.
Hey now.
Hey, I'm sorry, but don't worry. When
Hey,
I'm done
I like being the Bank of Ron the good guy. I don't like being the Bank of Ron the bad guy. But
okay,
I know where you're going with this, and I'm going to be evil personified.
No. So, well, I'm talking about another Ron, not you.
Oh, okay. Made me feel a little bit.
So the Bank of Ron is a little insolvent. So they close the doors.
Sounds like being a little pregnant.
Yeah, they close the doors. You can't access a teller, an ATM, your money online. It's shut down. And somebody like me, the bookkeeper, I get in there and I go crazy, typing. And what I do is I execute a bail-in. I take, in essence, money, electronic digit money, out of depositors' accounts. Those are debits, and the offsetting equal credit goes to the Bank of Ron's equity, which means you, the depositors, just had your accounts diminished, and you now own stock in a bank that just robbed you. That's a bail-in, that's legal, and it's happened in Europe.
Yeah, and it will be happening soon in the United States. And Tracy, this is a comment. She says, this is more perplexing than Bitcoin. Do not confuse what he's talking about here with digital / cryptocurrencies. There are some similar properties, but there's not the same. So
I'll tell you my problem with all electronic or any system that only has electronic digit money. I don't care what it is, and has no physical counterpart. My problem with this is that, are you familiar with the Carrington event?
No.
Okay, Carrington event. Carrington was a British astronomer. He had a habit of looking at studying the sun. It's on or about September 1, 1859. The sun kicked a massive, what is called coronal mass ejection. This is a huge ball of energy. and it heads straight to the Earth. It's estimated that it went to 94 million miles in 18 to 19 hours, which, as I've said many times, that's galactic pedal to the metal. Hits the Earth. What happens? Well, in some parts, and people had written and documented this, let's say it's about 11 p.m. The sky lights up. It is so late, people could be outside reading a newspaper at 11 p.m. The Aurora Borealis, normally only seen in the northern latitudes, is seen down in the tropics. Okay, no big deal, fine, interesting. The kicker is what happened to the telegraph equipment and the wires. They burnt. If we get, and we will, there was a Carrington-like event some years ago, but it missed the Earth by 9 days. If we get a Carrington event and it hits us, what happens to all our circuitry, our grid, God forbid, our refrigerators, our computers, everything? Potential, it gets fried. Not, we got to reboot. There's nothing to reboot. It's gone. So if all your monetary wealth is in a computer somewhere, you're hosed. And here's the last thing on this, and this is why I don't like it, is that when I did my research on this some time ago, Social Security Administration had, hopefully they've stopped, had declared 1,000 people dead a month that weren't dead. Well, if you're dead, according to the Social Security Administration, you're dead. And it's going to take months to convince them, as you yell at them, you're not dead. Can you access your credit? Can you access your accounts? Maybe not. I don't like one is none. I like two is one. I want physical money. And if we don't have physical money, we are going to be more easily controlled, because all your monetary wealth, all the monetary wealth in the country is going to be in a computer somewhere that you don't own, control, and you can be locked out. I don't like cashless monetary systems.
I think that's evident. I never would be able to tell.
Really? Well, yeah, I'm quiet in that way.
No, I understand, and I'm not trying to advocate for a cashless system, but there's a difference between the digital currencies that Tracy's talking about here and the difference between digital currencies and like the way the bank notes are, is the bank is custodying your assets. Whereas on the digital assets, I'm custodying my assets. Now, granted, it's all on the blockchain, but I'm actually in custody of my assets. And if I lose my keys, then I'm responsible for, I can't blame anybody for losing my keys, or if I'm hacked or whatever. That's a bank, if a bank is in the, I do believe that banks are going to be able to custody digital assets in the future. I believe that is coming.
Not if I get my way.
I know.
And this will all get wrapped up when we get to module 16.
No.
Because to me, regardless of what is considered money, I want a national system. And this kind of like is a preview of what to come. I want a national monetary system that does not give me inflation, does not require a federal government to tax me, and does not allow a federal government to borrow. Because these are the three biggest problems we have in our current monetary system. And if what is being offered as a solution to the current system does not even acknowledge these three massive problems, I don't find it a solution. But we'll wrap that up when we get to module 16.
Okay.
Module 11. What is a Ponzi scheme? The quote, excuse me, The quote comes from Frederick Bastiat. He was from 1801 to 1850. In 1849, he published a little pamphlet called The Law.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't read it, get it.
It is amazing.
He was there for the Third French Revolution. He writes with, and the version I've seen is apparently an authoritative translation. He writes with such clarity. It's beautiful. Anyway, this is what Frederick Bastiat said. When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men living together in society, they create for themselves in the course of time a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. Plunder.
So I have one. Let's see here. I can probably come up with just a tiny little word phrase that would fit into that. Federal Reserve Act.
No.
Just saying.
Hey, okay. Well, let's talk about Ponzi. The original Ponzi is Carlo or Charles Ponzi, and he hatched this scheme back in December of 1919. And the key is being able to convince investors that they're about to invest in a fantastic investment opportunity. And what he was working on, keep in mind the time frame, he was getting people to invest in what were called postal reply coupons. He was basically allegedly doing arbitrage. He'd get them in one area and sell them for more in another. And all of this was going crazy because of European currency prices. Well, he apparently didn't really make any legitimate trades. He was and he was promising huge returns. So people could not give him money fast enough. And then he would turn around and take, in essence, the new money and pay off old investors and back and forth. And that's the Ponzi scheme. Because a Ponzi scheme is allegedly a great investment opportunity that has no real business operation. Now, this is not a situation where you have a real business operation and you just eventually don't do well. This is where you have no business operation. That's a Ponzi. Okay, and the reason I bring this up in FedEd is that let's talk about this great, absolutely fantastic investment opportunity. In fact, it's so good, it's AAA rated. U.S. Treasuries. Now, Treasuries issue bills, bonds, and notes. A bill is usually has a maturity of 1 year or less. Notes, 2 to 10 years. Bonds, 10 to 30. What for-profit business is the U.S. government in that it can repay its debt? Would that be none?
None.
It'd be none. Now, somebody might come back and say taxation. Well, taxation isn't profit making for me. Taxation is profit taking.
Amen to that.
And selling more in treasuries to pay the interest or the principal on old ones, well, that's pure Ponzi. Well, that means, our federal government is running an absolutely massive, unpayable, soon to be unserviceable Ponzi scheme. Now, didn't Bernie Madoff go to jail? Bernie went to jail for 150 years for running a $60 billion Ponzi. Who's going to go to jail on this one? I didn't check this morning, but let's say we're at 29 trillion. And I know I said this probably on the last time, but just to bring it home, what is 1 trillion? Well, talking about a number just doesn't help. So I put it in understandable units. A trillion seconds, if you could live a trillion seconds, you'd live to be 31,709 years old. That ain't going to happen. If you could walk a trillion inches, you'd walk a distance equal to 633 times around the earth at the equator. one lap at 24,500 miles. That ain't happening. If you wanted to be the first one to get the trillion-mile frequent flyer card, you'd have to fly a distance equal to 107 round trips from Earth to Pluto and back. That's 1 trillion. The debt's over 29. And the last time, or annually, year after year, that the federal debt decreased was 1958. The first time it hit a trillion was 1981. We keep allowing our federal government to expand by taxing more and incurring more debt. And eventually, it ain't going to make good on it. Here's some problems with the debt. One of the big investors, actually, I looked it up. Japan holds more treasuries than China. We have a lot of public and private pensions holding lots of treasuries because they had to invest in AAA rated. Well, a vast majority of these pension plans are basically underfunded. And that's without counting their treasury investments as not good. What's going to happen? Not good. 1 second. Probably this year, if not last, up until then, Social Security was always it always had a surplus. More was coming in than went out, which meant the surplus was used to buy treasuries. Beginning last year, at least this year, there's no more surplus. More's going out than coming in. So it's starting to liquidate all the surplus it had in treasuries. And it's estimated in the mid 30s, that surplus is going to be gone, which means with nothing changing, benefits are going to drop 20 to 25%. This system is absolutely bad. And here's what's stupid about the AAA rating. Back in the 33, 34 Act, Securities Act, the rating agencies and Wall Street had some real good power. So what did they do? Rating agencies will give you AAAs, AA, single A, whatever. They'll give you all kinds of ratings. But guess what? You cannot hold them financially responsible for their ratings because it's just their opinion. And that's why when it all hit the fan in 2008 on those AAA rated bonds, no rating agency got hammered. Why? Because
they can't be held financially responsible.
They're not.
They, you know, and in the movie The Big Short, they touched on that. Do you remember the scene? Do you remember much about that movie at all?
I do remember a lot of the movie, and I really enjoyed it.
The particular scene I'm talking about was when he went to go talk to the lady, and she had her eyes. It was Mark Baum, who was played by the comedian guy. I can't remember. Anyway, he goes into Moody's, or he goes in to see. I can't remember if it was Moody's or well, who's the other ratings agency? There's Moody's and what else?
I don't remember.
Whatever.
Yeah.
He goes on his one, and he said, how can this be? And she says, she has a moment of where she actually she gives him like real. She says, well, if we don't give them what they want, they'll go down the street to Moody's. Basically, it's like so. And he says, so it's like you're selling ratings. You're selling ratings.
Yeah.
And all the rating that they're doing by selling the ratings, they're giving the banks what they want so that the banks can continue to perpetuate the lie based on the ratings that the rating agency that was supposed to be an independent, supposed to be independent. So they're getting paid to perpetuate the lie.
Yeah. And a lot of this came out of the selling of credit default swaps.
Yes.
Which in its pure form is good stuff. It's investment insurance. But the problem is the vast majority eventually of credit default swaps were being sold to people who had no insurable interest. So it was pure gambling. And when it all hit the fan, my cat, when it all hit the fan, they had too much exposure. They couldn't cover all the bets they took. So it stopped being an insurance company and started being Vegas. So my takeaway on this being a Ponzi scheme, the debt is unpayable. It will be, with no changes, it will become unserviceable. And if you remember, speaking of movies, if you remember Top Gun, if you remember when Stinger was dressing down Maverick, he said, your ego is writing checks. Your body can't cash. Right. That just seems to be on target. All right.
Module 12.
Module 12, why the Fed must be replaced. Opening quote. I think this is enough right here, but we'll go past it. The Federal Reserve definitely caused the Great Depression by contracting the amount of currency in circulation by 1/3 from 1929 to 1933. Yes, Milton Friedman, Nobel Prize winner. Now think about this. Somebody is running a big company and they do something so bad that the company almost goes BK. Do they have a job the next day?
Unlikely.
HE double hockey sticks? No. But the Fed's still in charge. Fed's still here. Well, some of the reasons why I think the Fed needs to be replaced is they were given apparently what's called a dual mandate. Now, I understand dual to be two, like dual mufflers. Okay. Yet their mandate includes three things: maximum employment or full employment of resources and people, stable prices, moderate long-term interest rates. That sounds nice, but that's three. So they can't even get the mandate correct. But how do you have full employment without moderate long-term interest rates? And of course, they've so jacked the interest rates, it's now being manipulated. And how can you have any price stability if you have inflation? And we're seeing inflation. And the inflation numbers that have been put out there in the past have been ridiculously miscalculated. The Fed will tell you that they have a 2% inflation rate. That's their target. They hit that, they're happy as clams before they're harvested. Let me tell you a problem with any inflation. Now, back in the day, and this is going way back, inflation meant increase in money supply. Now it means increase in the general price level. If you go back to when the Fed started business in November 1914, in November 1914, $1 had the purchasing power of 114 pennies. 100 pennies to the dollar. Okay, good. Today, our dollar has the purchasing power of maybe 2, maybe 3 1914 pennies. It's a failure. We're losing purchasing power, and it's by design. And when we get to the journal entries, you'll see why it is by design.
Well, inflation is inflation as defined as the latter is a hidden tax, and that's all by design.
Yeah, I mean that is the term for it, but the upshot is your dollar, your money is not buying as much. I mean, when I started driving a car, back right after they invented the wheel, gas costs 26 cents a gallon. I could fill up my tank with $5. Today, in some stations, I can't even get a gallon for $5. Mm-hmm. So the takeaway on this is one sure way for you to live life on the edge is do nothing about your national broken by design monetary system. But if you're going to live day to day, just in the moment, then you might want to consider asking yourself this one Very important question. And yeah, this comes from Dirty Harry. Do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? Well, do you? I don't feel lucky. All right. Module 13.
Well, we're mowing through here. Is this going to be the last one today, or
No, we're going to try to get to
save it? You're going to try to conserve a little bit so that we can have
trying to get to 15. I want to get to 15, but 16, 18 is just something to read, so I won't do it. 17 is the call to action. All the heavy is in module 16. That's what all this leads up to.
Okay.
So we're going to get to 13. What monetary system can replace the Fed? Well, I got another quote from Milton Friedman, Nobel Prize winning economist. If you put the federal government in charge of the Sahara Desert, in 5 years, there'd be a shortage of sand. That is from Milton Friedman. I want to,
truth.
I'm going to find something here. Sorry, I'm going off camera for a moment. To give you an idea of how the esteem held for Milton Friedman, and I'm going to have to read this. In 2006, there was, I'm sorry. In 2002, there was a birthday party for Milton Friedman, his 90th. And Ben Bernanke, then a governor of the Board of Governors, was there. In his opening remarks, this is November 8, 2002. This is what Bernanke said. I can think of no greater honor than being invited to speak on the occasion of Milton Friedman's 90th birthday. Among economic scholars, Friedman has no peer. And he's just saying, you put the government in charge of the Sahara Desert, you're going to be out of sand. Well, Milton Friedman, and Anna Schwartz wrote a book called A Monetary History of the United States, 1863 to 1960, published 1963. The reason I mention Anna is because she gets named in this following line. This is what Ben Bernanke says at the end of a really dull speech commemorating the 90th birthday of Milton Friedman in 2002. Let me end my talk by abusing slightly my status as an official representative of the Federal Reserve, as member of the Board of Governors. I would like to say to Milton and Anna, Milton Friedman, Anna Schwartz, regarding the Great Depression, you're right, we did it. We're very sorry, but thanks to you, we won't do it again. He just owned the quote that I had previous, where in module 12, where the Federal Reserve definitely caused the Great Depression. Ben Bernanke just owned that. So do you think we need the Fed to be replaced? I'm thinking so. So to me, what makes a proper monetary system is where the benefit of money creation and money extinguishment. Money comes into creation, it increases the supply. Money is extinguished, it goes out of the supply. Who should benefit from this system? Banks? No. Government? No. We the people. We the people. Because who created the concept of money? This is module 1, our planetary ancestors. So a proper monetary system serves the best interests of people, not private banks or governments. To do that, again, I've said this before, and I'll continue saying, I'm not anti-bank. We need banks. Banks are good businesses. I'm not anti-bank, anti-bank people, anti-bank buildings. No, I just don't want them to be the sole creators of our money. I want to take that power back. I want it held by, controlled by, and benefit we the people. My version of this new system is we have, and for lack of a better term, we have a national bank. The national bank is the only entity in the country that can create or extinguish our money supply. Now, to run this institution would be like going back to the federal government before the 17th Amendment. Each state would have representatives. And yes, this is going to require people to finally get involved in their lives, in their monetary system lives. They locally within a state figure out who they want to go. They demand and get whoever represents their state at the national bank, for lack of a better term. These people have to report to the people on a regular basis. This is what's going on. And all the details can be figured out. But when you take the power to create money away from the banks, leave them alone for everything else, what can we, the people, do with this power? One, we can control the supply so there is no inflation. Two, we will now fund our federal government based on approved budgets, based on what we approve. We want limited government. We don't fund it. We just don't fund it. And that part goes away. And finally, since all the funding is coming from the national bank, based on what the people as a unified group decide, federal government can't borrow anymore. We've seen what happens when it's allowed to borrow. It is created absolutely, totally unpayable, soon to be unserviceable, national treasury debt. We have to take back the power. Now, let's say, God forbid, and I just use this one because most people know the name. Let's say you don't have one, but you had 3 Katrina events at one time. Well, this would be horrible, absolutely horrible. Which means we, the people of this country, are going to want the federal government to get some special allocated funding to help the disaster areas. Well, to make sure that this extra funding doesn't stay in circulation too long, depending on where the money goes, whatever, there would be a sales tax, consumption tax put into place. And as soon as the economic level and the money supply come into equity, into equilibrium, sales tax goes away. So your state wants to borrow? Well, the state goes to the national bank, shows up, explains what it wants to borrow money for, how is it going to spend it, how are they going to report it, and if the national bank decides okay, the state can get funding. No longer does it have to push out bonds at higher interest rates. This is the people taking charge of their monetary system, because we've seen what happens when banks do it. We've seen what happens when federal government allows it. We have inflation. We have absolutely massive federal taxation, and we have a totally unpayable debt. This is a system that is failing, and all you have to do is listen to the words of Milton Friedman. And in a way, I've kind of taken care of module 14. Who will benefit? We will. To give you an idea of this topic, the quote from 14 is, whoever controls the volume of money in any country is absolute master of all industry and commerce. Mm-hmm. James Garfield, President of the United States. I believe he said that before he was assassinated.
Funny, presidents who have a desire to do good things for the people find themselves at the wrong end of a bullet, typically.
That would be Lincoln. Lincoln, after the war, figured out that back then they literally did print money. That was under that system. It's called greenbacks, and they're called greenbacks because the back of the bill was green. And originally, to fund the war, Lincoln went to New York and said, hey, boys, what can you do for me? And they said, we can do anything you want for 25, 30% interest. He said, bite me. He went back. He took his friend's advice and they created the greenback. Well, he wanted to keep this going. We know what happened to Lincoln. Prior to that, Andrew Jackson, who went toe-to-toe, I'm not a fan of his necessarily, but he went toe-to-toe with Nicholas Biddle and the Second U.S. Bank, and he fought like hell to prevent its recharter, because back then the central banks were on 20-year charters. One day at the Capitol, Andrew Jackson was walking with his cane, and a guy shows up with 2 pistols, Derringers. He pulled one trigger, misfired. He pulled another trigger, misfired. Jackson beat the hell out of him. Apparently, these pistols were subject to misfire if the conditions were damp, and it was damp that day. That was an assassination attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the upshot is, who will benefit from the new monetary system before we run out of time? We will. Absolutely. And the takeaway from 14, because I kind of covered it, our nation's new monetary system will be run for the benefit of we the people. Our nation will once again be in the hands of we the people, the citizen owners, not the elected employees. And when we have a firm and steady hand on the lamp of liberty, we will bring about the great country our founders envisioned, because we will control the money. We will control the elected employees.
I'm into that.
And finally, because we're about to run out of time, what's the process? We'll get more somewhat into it in 17. What is the process to install a new monetary system? The quote, I think we all know this one. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Thomas Jefferson. And what I've come to learn is, or think about, is eternal vigilance is more than just paying attention. It's taking action. It's, standing on the wall and doing something. Fortunately, the Federal Reserve Acts and their amendments are not constitutional amendments. They're just laws. How do you get rid of a law? You get it repealed. How do you get it repealed? We, the citizen owners, need to start telling our elected employees, and when I write this out, I use the Constitution style. Capital C, capital O for citizen owner, lowercase e for elected employee. How do you get it done? You tell your elected employees, get this done or don't come home. That's not a threat. That is, you're not going to be welcome. We're done with this stuff. We're done with you ruining our country by allowing entities to control our system that gives us inflation, federal taxation, and absolutely totally unpayable, soon to be unserviceable national debt. We're done with it. We are capable of running this ourselves. So the takeaway on this one is, we the people can and must end our massive national problem, which is the Fed allowing banks to be the sole creators of our national money supply. We the people can make this happen. Every day, contact your elected employees, your alleged representatives in DC, emails and phone calls. Demand the repeal of all the Federal Reserve Acts and their amendments, and demand the creation of a new national bank. We made it through 15.
Excellent. Well, then I guess we'll have next week to go 16, 17, and 18.
Well, as I said, 18 is 3 pages of quotes and other writings, so we won't go through them. 17 is just emphasizing the call to action. And in FedEd, and hopefully my website will be operational, Module 17 is a 1-pager and then backed up by a draft of an email that people could send to their elected employees. And 16 is the bookkeeping of banking. And we will cover in depth 4 journal entries that basically completely and utterly support what I've been saying.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, on that note, then, Alan,
Did you want to ask me that question?
oh no, we'll do that next week.
Okay.
Because I use that a lot. I ask people where their federal income tax money goes, and most of the people say it just goes to pay for roads and and I'm like, yeah, no, but and I'll say to you again, I don't mind, but the IRS that collects the income tax, and that goes to pay for the interest on the debt that the government borrows from the Federal Reserve.
Well, the debt is borrowed from more than the Federal Reserve is not the only buyer of Treasury debt. It is one of the buyers, but it's not the only buyer.
Right.
Countries buy it, businesses buy it, individuals buy it, pension plans buy it. Everybody's in this pile, which means if the US government was to default, a massive amount of countries and people and businesses and pension plans are going to take a huge hit. We need to prevent this.
Okay, well, how do you prevent it?
Well, as I said, we change the monetary system.
Okay.
The only way is to change it and prevent the federal government from ever borrowing again. Because, as I've said before, this is like leaving the teenagers home alone for the weekend with the keys to the liquor cabinet, the Corvette, and the credit card. What could go wrong?
Yeah, and with respect, I'm not seeing any way that we're going to get out of this and replace the system before the collapse. I don't see it.
I do.
So, okay, well, you have a little more confidence in that than I do.
Yeah.
So,
well, once people find out this is all you have to do to begin the process, I'm not asking anybody to train to climb Mount Everest. Okay. This is the effort required to walk around the block. It's not heavy. It just has to be done by enough people demanding the change. And we all got skin in this game. And it's time that we own up to our duty to the country. We need to get this done. That's my take on it.
Okay. Well, on that note, say Ray and Pam's email, you can find last week's 1 through 7. If you click on the Mr. Constitution classes link to the channel, it's last week's video, part 1. This is part 2, so you can find it in there. I will try to I'll update the link in the description as well to have it in there for part 1. So on that note, guys, it's 5 after, and I've got some things I got to get done. So I'm going to say au revoir until next week. Alan, we will see you next week. I'm sure I'll talk to you in between.
Do you mind if I sign off the way I normally sign off?
By all means, sign off. Go ahead.
Because this is the way I sign off when I'm host of KMET 1490 AM Constitution Radio, Saturdays 1 to 3, and my live stream on Patriot Soapbox Sunday 5 to 7 p.m. West Coast time. I like to sign off by saying this to all you good people out there, you lovers and defenders of liberty, freedom, rights, individuality, equality of opportunity for all. To all you patriots, oh yeah, you know who you are. Until next time, may you be and stay safe and well. Patriot out.
Thank you, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody as well. So you too, Alan.
Thank you, sir.
All right. See you guys.